Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome. My name is Tom Lelio. I'm your ultimate jet guide, and today we're pulling back the curtain on private aviation, doing some cold calls. That's right, we're in here today doing some cold calls, calling some the Citation Ultra market, and I'm super glad for you guys to be here today. If you've got any questions, throw them in the comments below. We'll be here daily for our power hour. The entire Jet Life Aero squad is hitting the phones for the next 60 minutes, and we'll be closing up around 3:30 today. So without further ado, I'm going to start hopping on the phones. I'm going to have a video going on over here so that you guys can watch, because sometimes I do have to mute it because you never know who we're going to be talking to. If we've got any celebrities in the house or just high net worth individuals, obviously privacy is going to be really important. So thanks a lot for coming around. And if you're checking us out on the replay, I invite you to go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and ring the notification bell. We appreciate that very, very much. Again, welcome to Jet Life Aero. So here we go. Hello and welcome. My name is Tom Lelio. I'm your ultimate jet guide, and today I'm joined with Paula Williams of. And tell me, how do I pronounce your company's name? Because there's a lot of letters.
ABCI.
ABCI.
Alpha Bravo Charlie India.
Perfect.
Okay.
She is the marketing aviation guru, and we're having her join us today because we're going to be talking about marketing. Specifically, what does the marketing of a jet speak to a buyer? Okay, if I'm a buyer, I'm coming up to a jet online on Controller or wherever I'm finding this AvBuyer, wherever I'm finding it, what does the marketing tell me, and what should I be looking out for? So thank you so much for being here, Paula.
Oh, you're very welcome. And actually, I think this is an amazing question because nobody thinks of it from this perspective. But if you're a jet buyer, it's similar to, I guess, probably the thing that people are the most familiar with is if you're buying a car.
Yep,
you know,
buying a car, buying a house.
Yep. Do is look at the fit and finish. You know, because that attention to detail is what tells you everything about how that car was built, how that car was, especially if it's a used car, you know, how that car has been taken care of. If you've got a clean, pristine, beautiful, fabulous inside of the trunk, then you know you're good because this car was owned by a responsible person.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing if you're looking at a jet and the emails are coming on time, you know, you ask for something and you get it. It's a nice PDF. You know, things are spelled correctly. You know, it's you don't have any rough edges on the marketing.
Yep.
It tells you the detail.
What's
this is
up,
somebody who probably is working with a copywriter or working with, you know, other people, has a good team, has a good process, is not too busy
new
to
audio stuff. So let me know
if you're in the market for a jet, you want to be working with somebody who's
hear something or hear something
with the
too much.
process, has a good team, has a good process, and can, you know, this is not their first rodeo, so they can navigate some of those weird things that happen in the process.
Well, I'm going to pull back the curtain for a second and tell you I've made all those mistakes. And I will tell you why I've made those mistakes so that the buyers can know maybe why it's happened. And you know, it's good. The reason I do that is because one of my core values is responsibility. I will take responsibility for things. So if I made a mistake, hopefully I can explain it and then learn from it myself, but also help somebody along the way. So for example, I will have someone that we want to get it to market. So I'll use an owner's photos. Now all of a sudden, you know, they're vertical, dark. They're dark. They, you know, they're all over the place. And so maybe if you see that, yes, if it's like that for, you know, 6 months or however long I'm listed, then that's a problem. But at the same time, you know, sometimes we're just trying to get it to market. I've also definitely made spelling errors in my spec sheet. And I've even made the mistake. I know, right? I've even made the mistake of numerical errors. And I remember a time where instead of saying 3,300 hours remaining, it was 3,300 hours since overhaul. Completely different story. Completely different story. So I've learned, you know, double check the spec sheets, you know, against the maintenance reports and understand what you're getting. The brokers aren't perfect, but they should be held to a high standard, to your point. And so, you know, I've made a lot of those different kinds of mistakes. The other mistakes I've seen is we had someone go to a pre-buy. The pictures and everything were flawless. It was beautiful, perfectly marketed. And well, we've all had the time where you go and it's completely not what you expected. In this case, it was. However, when they stepped inside the cabin, when they looked down at the floor, they noticed crayon, markers,
Okay. Yeah.
candy. Clearly, this person had kids. And we're like, how did we miss this? We noticed that the photos never showed the floor.
Oh wow!
So when we got
they've
there,
been there the whole time.
yep. So even if you got the perfect photos, do they show everything?
Yeah.
And I've even had buyers tell me, like,
Thank
send
you. I'll
me
make the video
stuff from the owner or send me a video. And so whenever I go out to or I have a photographer go out and say, go through with your phone, shoot me a video, just down and dirty, just so I can send that, because people understand, marketing is marketing. But you're absolutely right. And I love the point that you bring up, that it's not just about the ad itself, but you said attention to detail, and you said, do they respond to you?
Yeah.
What is their process of responding? When you actually get on the phone, do they ask you about, what are you looking for? Why now? Why this plane? Have you considered something newer, something older? Like, what's your price point? Like, are they having a conversation with you, or are they just order takers? Yeah, the ask price is this, the engines are that, the avionics is this. Have a good day. Call me if you like it.
They're a consultant, not an order.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Let me go back to one thing that you said, and that is, I love the fact that you are transparent when you make an error, because it's gonna happen, and so are we. And I think being transparent is 1,000 times better than being perfect.
Ooh.
We all shoot for that polish, but we don't always hit it.
Mhm.
So sometimes the circumstances dictate we're gonna do an owner video, or
Yep.
we're gonna send you an unfinished document, or we're gonna
All right,
send
Right.
That's
Yeah,
a
we've
little
done that.
better.
Yep.
and
Hopefully.
you can prepare people for that and say, hey, I'm not where I want to be in this process because we're in a hurry.
Mm.
Let me
Yeah, we're in the fourth quarter now. I mean, how much of a hurry do we have to be
Okay.
in? Yeah.
Exactly.
Talk.
Let me preface this with,
My name's
here's what
Tom
we
with
got to work
Jet
with
Life
right now.
Arrow,
This
and
is
today
not
we're
our usual
just
process,
cold
but
calling
we're
some
hurrying
owners.
because
Mhm.
we want to meet your needs, and that's more important than being all perfect.
Mhm.
So
So you mentioned, for owner or for buyers looking into it, kind of, what are some of the things that, in your opinion, set a broker or set a
One, two.
potential deal apart from the marketing perspective? You
Yeah.
mentioned maybe photos a little bit, maybe something you've seen people do after, like the emails,
Check
drip
1, 2.
campaigns, or
Yeah.
like, what are some of the things that you've seen that kind of set someone apart?
okay.
Check 1, 2.
I think people who are
Check.
thought leaders in their
Two.
specialty. So, if you are a broker that specializes in the
All
Honda
right.
Jet, as
Mhm.
an example, and you're writing articles about the Honda Jet,
Next up,
these are
see who
the
Canada.
attributes
Now
of it. This is the
gonna
perfect
call
mission
Canada.
profile. Here's somebody that
Mm.
bought a Honda Jet that maybe shouldn't have. If you're writing articles about that sort of thing, or shooting videos about that sort of
Mhm.
thing, if you're producing content about your topic, then you're the guy that they
Mm.
want to talk to, right? They want to talk to the Honda Jet guy.
Yeah. So buyers should be looking, like, who is this broker?
Yeah.
Don't just look at the airplane.
Right.
Look at who's the guy representing it. Is this the guy? It's a great point.
You may decide, hey, I want to buy a Honda Jet, but I want to buy it from somebody that
What's up,
knows
Max?
these things and
Mhm.
can find me a good pilot of
The party you are trying to reach is not available to
rapport
take
with
your
the
call.
manufacturer and knows,
Leave a message
what's
after
coming
the
next.
tone.
Yep.
Press the
Happened
pound.
before.
Yep, I've had that. People have called me on a listing. I've, sent them the drip campaign, sent them the ultimate jet guide and everything like that.
Which
And
is
then
great, by the way.
thank you very much. And they'll call me later and they'll say, hey, I'm looking to buy this citation. It's a listing, it's not yours, but will you help me with the process? Because they want that guide.
Yeah. And they want that thought leader.
Yeah.
So,
That's the goal.
yeah. So I would say, even if you don't have a jet to sell yet in your target market,
Mm.
start producing the content. Write here's the difference between this year and next year's model.
Mhm.
Here's why you would want this rather than that. Here are some
Mhm.
of the options you might want to consider with this jet family.
Mhm.
Then you establish your thought leadership before you have a listing.
Yep.
You're all set.
Yeah.
You've already got a reputation.
For sure.
All right.
That's great. Thank you. Let's switch gears
What's up?
and talk
What's up,
about
guys?
how we can help
Hey,
brokers.
welcome if you're joining us on LinkedIn,
Or just
Facebook,
aviation professionals that want to help
YouTube,
with their
Twitch.
marketing.
Sure, my name's
So we've got
Life Arrow,
my buddy
and
Alex here, and
answer
he's
any questions you guys might
getting
have
started in aviation.
regarding cold calling marketing.
What are some of the quick tips for you, for someone getting
I'm
started?
here
What?
for you guys. I'll make
Why am I going to worry about marketing? I got to worry about sales.
kind of what we
Why am I going to
do
worry about
on a daily
marketing?
basis
It's
here
such
at
a long
the,
road. I'm not going to do TikTok
brokerage.
dances.
And
What does that have to do? Like, do I need to go viral? There's just so many things that kind of come to mind when marketing. It can almost be paralyzing.
Yeah. Well, most of us, when we learn about marketing in school, they're talking Coca-Cola and McDonald's and things like that. That's not us. We're not for everybody. And we know that. So we're trying to get the right network of maybe 100 people
Mm.
that know, like, and trust you.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
You're not going for thousands or hundreds of thousands. So if you're producing dancing TikTok videos that are getting hundreds of thousands of views, you're in the wrong profession, right? You want to be very, 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 very famous with 100 people.
Mm.
Okay, so pick your 100 people. What do they like? Where do they live? What kind of cars do they drive? What do they do on weekends? What magazines do they read?
Mm.
All of that. Know those 100 people as well as you possibly can. A lot of people do the buyer's persona, and it's like
Yep.
one person.
Yep.
I like to look at 10 or
Okay.
20 or 100. You've got a nice demographic group that you can find out a lot about, and it's not as idiosyncratic as one guy, who could be an outlier in some way. But if you shoot for that group of 10, maybe first, that's a good number. It's a manageable number. So you got 10 individuals. What do they have in common?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. No,
Yeah.
I like that. That makes
How
a lot of
much
sense.
education do they have?
Yeah.
What's their demographic?
So I'm actually gonna have Alex ask you a couple questions because I know that he's starting to get ready to start his Instagram and start, and so he's got a couple like, do I do my brand or do I do my sub? Do I combine the two? Do I get a logo? He's got a couple of those questions. So I'm gonna ask him, but before I have him ask him that and give him time to think of questions.
Did you know that was video?
Yeah, he
Okay.
does. But I want to ask you,
Workers
with
are popular in the fourth quarter.
personas.
Okay.
If I'm just coming out of college, which some of our brokers are,
Yeah.
and maybe I didn't grow up riding around in a private jet,
Yeah.
how do I even start finding personas of people that I don't have my own personal insight into?
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of personal relationships
Yeah.
from the country club.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of the people that we work with are coming from a similar background. They've never been really comfortable in this world because they come from maybe a family where they're in a different socioeconomic level or whatever, and so they feel really nervous. The main thing is we're all people.
Right? Exactly.
And people are looking for expertise and they're looking for confidence. And the only way to get confident really is to get to know some folks. So hang out where they hang out. If you can get invited as a guest to some different events and things without having to pay a ton of money. I don't mean to max out your credit cards and
Get in the room, right?
fly to Ibs,
Go to Dubai and just hang out with everyone. Yeah.
I just mean, when you have the opportunity, don't shy away from hanging out with people who are wealthier than yourself.
Yep.
And you'll get to know that they are just people the same as anybody else. They've got the same problems,
Mhm.
maybe a variation of a different problem, whatever. But you want to, they're all they don't want to get ripped off. They want to work with people they know, like, and trust. They want to work with people that know their topic.
Yep.
So expertise trumps money.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. And that's how they got successful too. That's the way I think about it is, they're very specialized in their industry, which allowed them to serve a lot of people and be in this position to own a private jet. And they're looking for something similar. The other thing I would say too is when you look at it from like a perspective of like groups and rings, there's people of the outskirts of those rings that they'll take a chance on somebody they don't know. Hey, come on, and maybe that's not like the big fish that you want to talk to initially, but you can kind of get in the room through somebody else that'll take a chance. And then, hopefully you pay that forward, down the line as well. So just because, you can't get in touch with the CEO, maybe you can get in touch with somebody in the surrounding circles and get in the room.
Right. And there's a whole strategy for kind of infiltrating a family trust or infiltrating a large organization or something like that from the outside ring, which is exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So you start with the outside ring and you work your way in.
That's cool.
Using LinkedIn, using personal connections, using events like this one, using other things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it.
Great.
What do you think, man? We've got some questions.
Well, first, I think this has been really informative for me. So I'm 24 years old. I just became a jet broker in June. I started
Congratulations.
working with Tom.
Yeah.
Originally, I was in finance, and I've always been passionate about aviation, and I wanted to combine both aviation and finance. So I didn't know quite what it was, but I stumbled upon, craft acquisitions and sales, and I found Tom online. So I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. And I actually just got my first listing several weeks ago, straight CJ. So listening to some of your ideas on the 5G market, such as making articles, just writing about it, just making content specifically on straight CJs.
Yeah.
It's good because one, what I want is when someone thinks of a straight CJ, they think of my name.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
But my question for you is, I think you kind of touched on it, but what are ways that I can expand my network?
Okay.
I've heard, volunteering for like, some committees is really important, although I don't know which committees to look into yet. So I guess how can I expand my network? Because that's really important.
Right. I haven't really
Hey guys, what's going on? If you're
looked into
just
the
joining us,
their
welcome. My
demographics
name
and,
is Tom
advise them
Lelio with
and those kinds of
Jets for
things.
Life
Often
Arrow,
there is
and
a
appreciate you guys
industry,
being here. Don't
maybe
forget
oil
to
and
hit the
gas or whatever
subscribe
it is,
button
particular to this
and then
particular
ring the
group
notification bell. Over here on this
So
channel, I
if
try to make
you can
content to
learn
help you buy or
something
sell private
about,
jets without wasting time or
take
losing
100
money. Today we're
people
doing
going
cold
through
calls,
this.
and so this is an
What do they
opportunity for
have
you
in
to ask
common? Do
me
they work in oil
anything.
and gas? Do they work in the movie industry? Do they work with
Anything you want about being a
celebrities? Do
jet
they work
broker,
in
selling private
some other
jets,
field?
buying private jets. I'm here to help you
And
out.
then learn as much as you
Um,
can about
But yeah,
those
no, I'm just kind of
common
doing the cold calls
themes.
that we do on a
So,
daily
60
basis,
out of
and
100 are in this industry.
hopefully that's
Learn
helpful
as
for you
much as
guys.
can about that industry so you can talk to them about, I know you need to go here, here, and here. These are the locations you're probably interested in. I know a little bit about those airports. The more background you have on their industry and their needs, the more they're going to feel like, oh, this guy gets me. I feel him understanding and following, as opposed to somebody who's just interested in the airplanes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always an industry background.
Right.
Because their money came from somewhere. Right.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And also outside of networking, as a young, professional, what is the best way I can, what can I do to make what should I ask this? I guess what can I do to put myself in the best position to succeed, other than I just touched on networking?
Yeah.
Whatever things I can do, such as in marketing, I'm kind of like I'm conflicted on whether I should build my own personal brand with my name, or kind of like build just a brand that's just about aviation. I don't know. I guess I'm conflicted whether it should be my name or
Like a company name that you create.
Mhm. Well, there are advantages to both. I'm going to go at the beginning of this story. I wish I had done more personal branding before I jumped into company branding. And there are two reasons for that. One, nobody can take it away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, you can turn it in a different direction if you decide, you know what, CJs are not my thing. I'm going to go into something else. A company is kind of tied to that subject matter more than you are personally, because you can evolve as a person into maybe a different aircraft maker model or a different specialty. Say, hey, I started there, but I went this direction for this reason. You can do that more easily. You're more versatile as a human being. And secondly, nobody can copy like Tom's face on all of his podcasts and things like that.
It's true.
I guess AI can, but it takes a whole lot more to.
What's up,
copy
guys? And we're
somebody's
back.
personal,
That was a long voicemail.
brand than to copy a company brand.
It's called a
A
pilot.
lot easier
Next.
to copy a company brand than a personal. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Anything else?
Well, my question for him is like,
Yeah.
how does he get started? Like, should he just pick a platform and start posting, like, or should he wait till he has like 20 posts ready to go and then start, or how?
Clean up my Instagram and reuse just delete all the college photos. Delete all the college photos.
Right. It is a good idea to do a little bit of a checklist. We have a personal branding checklist.
That's right. We'll give you a checklist.
Yeah,
Okay.
that we use for that, and just say, here are some things that you might want to consider before you go big, because it is hard to undo a first impression. On the other hand, don't be paralyzed. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like we said, transparency is a good thing. And if you're a snowboarder or whatever, there's nothing wrong with showing that side of your personality. Even if it doesn't really match with the demographics you're going after, that might be something they think is cool about you if you're kind of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would kind of make sure that it's not something that they would question your
Moral
judgment
character,
or anything like that. So maybe go back a few years and make sure there's nothing that anybody would be in your target demographic would be offended by. Or anything like
And
that.
we're back.
Otherwise,
Pilot didn't
let it
answer
rip.
either.
Yeah.
So I'll also say too,
pilots,
like most of
fallen
the time,
owners,
people
just
when
get
you're
somebody
posting, like
listening.
people
Boom.
overestimate how much reach they're going to have when they first start.
Come on,
That's
people.
Like unless you send people to your page, which is pretty much what you're doing.
Brands.
You're sending people to that page. So you're only going to send a couple people a page like a day maybe. So when you're starting out, like just get that content out there, build that muscle, that content muscle, so that a year later when you're sending a bunch of people there, you're just, oh man, this guy's been doing it for a year.
And every day I'm arm wrestling with
Let's do
people
it.
the same as, Gary Vaynerchuk told you, know, you have to get out there. You know, the first post is going to be the hardest. The second post will be a little bit easier. You're going to make mistakes. Don't worry too much about it. Just keep moving forward.
Just be better the next day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, be better the next day.
Yeah, just learn for sure. Any other questions?
No, I guess. I mean, I kind of already know the answer, but like, I talked about articles earlier.
Yeah.
Where do you suggest posting
Joey?
articles? Do you suggest making your own website and kind of like a blog with those articles and
Great question.
repost that on like LinkedIn or something? Or,
Yeah.
I guess that's
So you don't want anybody copying your intellectual property. So what I would suggest that you do for two reasons: one is intellectual property, and the other is because it gets you the maximum value for the work you put into those articles. Publish them on your own site first, and then repost on whatever media you're using. So LinkedIn, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can take derivatives of that article, long article that you wrote. You can maybe do information snacks of that and post them on Instagram, or you can do longer pieces and post them on LinkedIn, whatever your drug of choice is. You want to make sure that you own that content and you have published it first and you have a date stamped publication date and everything else. So not that you'd ever pursue it, but people are less likely to copy it if they know that you're following that.
Would you have someone who's just starting out post YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and just it all goes up all over the place? Or would you have them focus on one, build that muscle for a couple weeks, couple months, and then start to spread out?
Right.
What would you recommend?
All of our clients have one or two.
All right. Hey, Urstu, is the volume on the video appropriate at an appropriate level? And hopefully things are kind of going smoothly.
And then you spread out from that.
King.
So you can always take derivatives and put them other places with very little extra effort. So if LinkedIn is your thing, you're going to be writing longer pieces and you're going to be doing, longer form videos. No TikTok dancing or.
Now, here's a question. Would you write the blog post and then would you just copy and paste it into LinkedIn as a native LinkedIn piece of content with maybe a link at the end to the original post? Or would you just copy and paste the URL so that it shows up? Because I would imagine LinkedIn would probably prefer a native piece of content over a share.
Right.
Now we're getting really into the weeds.
Exactly. There's a lot of ways to do this, and the algorithms change all the time. So that being said, currently, we like to take 2 or 3 paragraphs from an article that you've already written, and then post it, as a teaser to get them to your website. That increases the traffic to your website. You own the intellectual property, and you're driving traffic away from LinkedIn, which you don't own. So
yeah,
LinkedIn goes away tomorrow. You still got the content.
Yeah, makes sense. That's great. If people want to find out more information about what you do, where can they find you, Paula?
Aviationbusinessconsultants.com. We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what else we got on our playlist for the Ultimate Jet Guide. If there's anything you guys want to watch, let me know. Here's a good one: how to make money with a private jet. I know a lot of people are asking this as of late, so this one.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Tom, and on today's video, we're going to be talking about how to make money with a jet. How do you invest in a jet? Is a jet even a good investment to begin with? So grab a chair and let's kind of go through a couple of things that we want to look at. So let's talk about, is a private jet a good investment? Well, there's a couple of things you want to be aware of. I mean, first and foremost, what is your acquisition cost going to be? So what is the cost? What is the cost to get involved in purchasing a private jet? I mean, you might look at the jets nowadays and think, oh, I could get a jet for $500,000, $1 million. Maybe I'll invest in one and cash flow it and make some extra money. Let's think about that. So we got to think about the cash flow, the acquisition cost. What is your ROI going to be? The other thing that you want to take into account is the FAA. When it comes to buying a private jet, it's not like buying a piece of real estate. You buy it, fix it up, throw it up on Airbnb, Craigslist, and all of a sudden you're generating income. When it comes to buying a private jet, you have to deal with the FAA, and there are specific guidelines that the FAA has in store if you're going to make money with your private jet. So truth be told, you can't even buy a private jet and rent it out to your neighbor and just be like, yeah, pay me for gas, whatever. Like technically that would be considered an illegal charter, because when it comes to becoming a charter operator, there's a lot of paperwork. It's about a year to 2 year process. You have to have a whole infrastructure, a chief pilot, director of maintenance. There's just this whole entire infrastructure built into getting a charter certificate, on top of which there are many maintenance items that need to be taken care of. So you can't just buy a jet and rent it out. You have to go through the FAA and get a charter certificate. So is it a good investment? Well, do you have a charter certificate that you can put it on? That is the question. The other thing, when it comes to, is it a good investment? Don't forget that the private jet is it's a mobile asset. So when you're letting someone use your mobile asset, you got to keep track of it. You got to keep tabs on it, make sure you know what it's doing. It may not be a great investment because it's a mobile asset. Someone can just take it. So these are just a few of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind when you ask yourself, how do I make money? Is it a good investment? And of course, we go over more of this in the Ultimate Jet Guide for Investors. So is it a good investment? Here's some things to think about. Now, let's talk about some definitions. Okay, so the first definition we're going to talk about is, well, what is this idea of charter? Charter is simply the using of your jet from go to point A to point B and charging someone for it. It's transporting people or things in your jet and they're exchanging money. That's exactly what a charter is. So when you start thinking about investing in a private jet, what you're really thinking about is, do you want to charter out your jet, allow other people to use it, and you generate revenue from that? So charter, great. Now let's talk about this idea of an operator. An operator is someone that manages the charter. It's a person that has made it his or her business to operate a charter fleet for the purposes of chartering trips. So the operator can sometimes be a manager. A manager is someone that's going to manage your jet from the maintenance to cleanliness to pilots to scheduling it. An operator is usually a manager, but a manager may not be a charter operator. With a charter operator, you're going to have you have sales, you have marketing, because their job is to make sure that your aircraft is not only functioning and well maintained, but also is put in use. So your operator is not just is also responsible for making sure that it actually gets trips. So you have the idea of charter, charging for your trip.
That was really good.
Operator that makes sure that it actually does.
We're working
that.
on a different script
You
right
have
now,
the manager
and
that can handle scheduling
not
and
for
maintenance
sale,
for your
but
aircraft.
it
Not
seemed
always
like
the
he
same as
was
the operator.
open to having
Then
more
you also have this idea of a broker. A charter broker is someone that, like myself, a jet broker is someone that finds
his jet
people that want to charter and connects them with a charter operator
across like
and makes the trip happen. So
You know, like
charter
someone who's
operators will typically have a sales division, and
who's a
sometimes they
who's
will
a
have
who's
a
a sales
broker
person, you know, we
division
want
as
to come
well.
across as
Because a broker is not just going to be limited to one
we want to
operator. A
come
broker
across
is
as
going
individuals
to
who
work with
are
multiple charter operators
trusted
because the
authorities,
broker's main job
not
is
trusted
to
advisors,
serve the
trusted
client that
opinions,
wants to charter,
and part of
serve
that
the
is
client that
kind of
wants to
going
go somewhere. And so what the broker is able to
keeping it
do
real
in that regard is
when we're making our
they
calls.
can connect multiple
Our script trying to
buyers
flex
or
that.
multiple charter clients with multiple operators. So that's how that's going to work as well. Now, the other thing we want to talk about, let's go ahead and hit that. That's cool. Okay. All right. So we've got our definitions. We've got our definitions down. What is charter? Let's talk about, okay, so you want to invest in a private jet. You want to put it on a charter. What are your options in terms of a charter company? Well, you've got a bunch of options here. Option A, you can start your own. Start your own charter company. What's going to be involved? Well, you got 1 to 2 years of paperwork to submit to the FAA. Hey, here's who I am. Here's my business. I'm asking for permission to open up a charter operation, a Part 135 operation. So you can start your own. You're going to need a chief pilot. You're going to need a director of maintenance. You're going to need what kind of jet.
Don't
you're gonna be using.
underestimate
You're
the
going to
value
have to
of
submit all this to
leaving
the
a
FAA, get it
voicemail.
approved. You're going to have
And,
to prove to the FAA
you know, even if
that
it's just
your
to hear yourself
maintenance
practicing the
standards
script
are
that you
at
want
a
to run with
specific
somebody,
level, like a
it goes a long
145
way.
repair station.
So
You're going to
it's
have
really
to prove
important.
that the jet is airworthy to the FAA. It's called proving runs. So you can start your own, but there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of legwork, and a lot of time that's going to be involved getting this thing started up. Obviously, the benefit is that you don't split the cost with an operator. You're generating all the revenue and keeping as much as possible. Let's talk about option B. You can buy a certificate. So there are some operators out there that they're retiring, you know, they're ready to move on, or they're just making a change and they're willing to sell their 135 certificate. So 135 certificate could be a couple $100,000, could be $1 million, could be more than that, depending on what's on it. There are different types of certificates. You can have a single operator certificate where it's one pilot, you know, one, you know, manager, one plane, and it's a very small operation. Then there's all the way through to multiple, you know, dozens of aircraft, huge maintenance facility, you know, a bunch of pilots. And obviously those certificates are going to cost, you know, a lot more. So you could buy a certificate that's going to save you the time from, you know, having to do all the paperwork. You may be able to inherit, you know, the infrastructure that's there. So option B would be buy your own certificate. Option C, put it on someone else's certificate.
So you guys aren't hearing the
So you
voicemail.
can
I'll let
start
you
your
hear the
own,
next
you can
one.
buy it,
but,
you can put it on somebody else's certificate. And what that means is kind of
yeah,
like a
no, so
lease
far so
back.
good.
You're going to buy the
Having some
aircraft,
voicemails today.
okay, and you're going to lease it back to a charter company. And the charter company is going to, you're going to set up a deal where maybe they pay you for their use.
No,
That's
which
the
was
lease back. Maybe you set up a deal where, you know, they're giving you 15% of the
leave
charter
a voicemail.
revenue. Maybe they're giving you a flat rate of the
asking?
charter revenue, but you're putting it on someone else's certificate. So the 3 ways to get involved in a charter is to start your own, buy your own, or put it on somebody else's certificate. This is exactly how it's going to work. All right, so now you've decided, is it worth it? What are the risks?
Hey,
investing in a
Robbie,
private
this is
jet?
Tom with
What are the
Jet Life Aero.
definitions we need?
I'm going through the market and
Decide,
I've
okay, we're gonna
got
move forward, we're gonna put it
Tango
on a
Tango
135
pulled up on my
certificate.
screen.
What are
I was
the 3
wondering if you could maybe
options,
help me out for a
to
moment.
do so?
I
Now,
don't know if it makes sense for you to
let's
call me
talk
back
about
or not,
why
but
most
I
people
work with a
fail when it
group that
comes
currently has
to
6
chartering
citations
out
on
their
the
jet.
market, and after
Number
reviewing
1,
notes
they
on
choose
Tango Tango, I called to see if you'd be opposed to
the
having a brief
wrong
conversation around that, as we might be able to help you out with
operator.
that if that's of interest. If that's of value, give me a call
They choose
back.
the
You
wrong
can
operator.
also
They
find me on
think,
YouTube at
you know, I live in
theultimatejetguide.com. You type that in, you
North
find me.
Carolina.
Or call and
I've
text
got to
me at
find an operator in North
941-241-2682.
Carolina. I want to
Have a great day.
buy a big jet.
So that's kind of the new
And they
voicemail
primarily
that we're
operate
working with.
DC-12s,
And
turboprops. It's just not the
Kinda like
right
it.
operator.
I
Maybe
like
they
it.
don't have enough experience.
Uh,
Maybe they're just really, bad at sales and marketing, so they don't get the volume that you need to make money. Because when you look at it, you really are going to be needing to charter out 300, 400 hours a year, and if the charter operator can't support that volume, it's not the right charter operator. You want to check your options. You don't have to go with an operator that's in your state. You can choose an operator anywhere in the country if they're willing to manage it remotely and schedule it remotely, and you're comfortable with that. You have a lot more options. So it's very important to partner with the right operator, not just the person that you like,
The
but
Honda
the
Jet
person
Search,
that can,
somebody asked me
actually,
for one, and then literally at the
person that
later
can
that
actually
day or
support
so, he came back. He said he
the
found one,
proposal
or
that they're giving
or
you.
the
They're saying,
buyer
oh
found
yeah,
another
we
one
can
that
do 400
he didn't
hours
bring
in the
to him. So
citation Excel, no
that's
problem. You
that's
have
what it
to,
is.
have
Sometimes
the
it only
stats to back it
lasts,
up. So there's a few things you want to look
hours
at,
of
when it
demand.
comes to the operator. We're going to get into those questions a little bit later, but some basic stuff, are they currently operating the kind of jet that you want,
This guy bought.
or
I guess he's
something
probably
like
not willing
it?
to sell, but
Are you going to have to spend a
some
lot of
buzz
money
anyway.
to get the maintenance manuals or train the pilots? Is this like their first go at chartering this kind of jet, or do they have a proven track record? That's basically what you want to look for. Do they have a proven track record in doing what they say they're going to do? So number one reason why people fail is because they choose the wrong operator. Next, let's talk about owner behavior. You bought a private jet. You said that you were only going to fly it maybe 14 days out of the year. Well, you flew it once in January and you're like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing. I love private aviation. I'm going to fly it 100 hours, this year. Owner behavior is one of those things that it's kind of interesting. A lot of, when I have these conversations with clients, between clients and operators, one of the hardest things for most people is to actually predict what their behavior is going to be, because they just don't know. So the first year, it's usually it's usually below what they predict. So if they say, I'm going to fly, 20 hours, the operator should probably charge, imagine it's going to fly 50 hours. Usually you undershoot how much you're going to use it the first year. Second year, it's going to come back a little bit. And then by the third year, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how much you're going to be chartering it. So owner behavior, if you use it more than was anticipated, you're not going to find a lot of success, because obviously in that case, it's not out. It can't generate revenue for you. That's going to be a problem. So the other thing, is going to be just your dynamic with the operator. If you're really, really difficult, because listen, here's the reality when it comes to owning a private jet is they go down for maintenance. They need to be kept up. And if you're working with an operator that wants to fix every little thing as soon as it pops up, but you're the kind of guy that's like, nah, let the other guy, worry about it, or let's kick the can down the road, and all of a sudden the plane gets, broken because you didn't fix it when something popped up. That's going to be a problem. But that's not the operator's fault. That's owner behavior. You want to make sure that you are on the same page when it comes to how you want to approach maintenance. If there's a disconnect between the operator and the owner of how they want to approach maintenance, are you a replace versus repair kind of a person? Do you want to replace stuff, and then you have to be waiting for the right part, and so the plane can't fly, but the operator would just repair it. That wasn't good enough for you. You got to be on the same page as the operator, because when it comes down to your behavior, that can be one of the reasons why you fail. All right, let's take a look at a couple more things. Let's talk about the cost of investing in a private jet. So again, we went over all this. All this is broken down into more detail if you go to theultimatejetguide.com/jet invest. We went through, is it a good investment? What are things you need to watch out for? We went through the definitions. We talked about why most people fail. Now let's talk about the cost when investing in a jet. The first cost you need to be aware of is your acquisition costs.
Don't know if this guy's
How much does it cost?
Jets or not.
How much does it cost to buy the jet?
Your call has been.
So when it comes to the acquisition costs, what we want to be aware of is what the market is at right now. Okay. We just got through, we're shooting this video first quarter 2023. We just got through 2 years of a huge market bubble. Okay. Planes actually appreciated, but the norm for private jet and for private aviation is a depreciating asset. These jets are going to be worth less when you buy them. The more you use them, the less it's going to be worth. All right. I mean, that's just the facts. The jets with less airframe time and less time on the engines are going to be worth more. So the more you use it, the less value it's going to become.
241-246-82.
So your
Also,
acquisition
find me
cost, your
on
capital
YouTube
cost. Now,
at
is this
the
a cash
Ultimate Jet
purchase?
Guide.
Is this
And
a
again, it's Tom at
finance
Life Arrow.
deal?
Hear from you soon.
These
Have
are
a good day.
things that are going to come into play when we look at the money that you're going to get from the charter revenue. Do you need it? Do you need the charter revenue to offset
Another
the acquisition
voicemail.
cost?
That's
Or
all right,
just,
though.
is
We
that
get our
just part of it?
numbers up.
Obviously, it would be
Gives us
great
an
if it did,
opportunity to reach
but
out to more people. Just
you got to
make
ask
some
yourself
more
that question:
seeds.
do I need the jet to offset the acquisition cost? Do I need the jet to start to pay off the note as soon as I buy it? Because that's going to play a role. All right. Next, we're going to talk about direct operating costs, the DOCs. The direct operating costs are basically just the cost that it costs, the cost that it costs to operate the jet. Basically, it's fuel, right? The main, operating, variable here is going to be fuel. So what's the burn rate? And this is kind of going to go into the acquisition cost when you're choosing the right jet. What's the fuel burn rate? What's the fuel burn rate on takeoff, on climb, on cruise? Like all these, it depends what kind of a buyer you are, but all these different kinds of minutia might be important to you. You might be looking at one jet that has a phenomenal fuel burn, but it takes forever for it to climb. And so based on the missions that it's doing, it's really, it's really a wash because it takes so long to climb. Then it finally gets at a good fuel burn, but it burns so much that by the time it gets up here, and it doesn't stay up here very long, it starts to descend. Now, again, you're back to inefficient fuel burn versus a jet that might have, a higher fuel burn. It might burn 350 gallons versus 300 gallons an hour, but it can get there faster. So it gets up to the top faster. Now it's hanging out over here, even though it's less efficient. If it's not going for very long and it's coming back, it might be a wash. So your fuel burn is going to be part of your direct operating costs. Some operators are going to include maintenance. They kind of have an idea because they've worked with these jets for so long of what the hourly costs are going to break down for maintenance. Just be aware where maintenance is put in there. Your hourly costs will probably also, your operating costs will also include your programs. If you have a program on the airframe, if you have a program on the engines, if you have a program on the APU, avionics, et cetera, those are typically billed hourly. So your operating costs are going to include that as well. So your direct operating costs are basically your hourly costs.
And we're back. So if you're
Again,
just
we're gonna
joining
look
us,
at,
again, my name
just
is
so we're all on the
Tom
same
with
page, what
Jet
fuel,
Life Arrow. And if you haven't already, go ahead and
sometimes your
click the
maintenance,
subscribe button, ring that notification bell as it helps
programs,
YouTube know that this is quality content and
etc.
people want to watch other
All right,
people to
let's
stream
talk
online
about
and
the good
hang
news on
out
direct
and
operating costs is
make some
you're
cold calls
in
and
control.
answer any questions you might have about
If
sales,
you
about
operate it more, you're going to pay more. If you operate it less,
you
you're
know,
going to pay less. So you're in
jet
control
sales and
of
all
your
the
direct
fun
operating
stuff.
costs.
So yeah,
Let's
go ahead, hit
talk
that notification bell.
about your fixed operating costs. These are costs that are going to happen regardless of whether you decide to operate the jet or not. So fixed costs are going to include your hangar. They're going to include your management fee. If you're working with an operator, they're going to charge you a management fee monthly usually. It's going to cost pilot costs. Usually, budget 100 grand to 200 grand a year for a pilot. It's going to include insurance. It's going to include the bank note if you're paying that off. This is also going to include charts, avionics subscriptions. These are just a few of the fixed costs that are going to be involved in owning your jet, and these are going to happen no matter what. So that's something to keep in mind. Whether you run it or not, these fixed costs are going to be a part of it. I'm showing you these costs because what's going to happen is you're going to get a proposal from a charter operator, and this is how they're going to break it down. They're going to break it down by direct operating costs, fixed costs. You want to know what these costs are, how they play into it. Yeah. So those are your fixed operating costs. Now we have the cost of the jet. Let's talk about revenue. Let's talk about making some money, because we're gonna use these three
Okay, this
costs to show
guy.
how we're
Oh,
gonna make
okay.
money.
So someone was deceased.
So basically, when it comes
Yeah.
to revenue, the charter company is going to charge a retail rate. Let's just say it's $5,000 per hour. Okay. We've got the wholesale rate, and let's just say it costs $3,000 an hour to operate. So you have your retail rate. This is what the charter company is going to charge a client to fly. 3,000, let's say it's $5,000 an hour. The wholesale rate is
What up,
basically what
Lalo
it
fam?
actually costs them, with the direct operating costs, fixed costs, management fees, et cetera, et cetera. It's roughly $3,000 an hour for the wholesale rate. So basically you're making $2,000 an hour as much as this thing flies. All right. So how much flying are we gonna do? Well, we're going to fly, and usually the wholesale rate is what you're gonna pay when you fly, right? So you're gonna pay cost because you're letting them use your jet. You're still gonna have to pay to use your jet, but it's gonna get offset by everybody else using it. So $2,000 an hour. Let's say you get 300 hours of charter out of it. This is not you flying it. This is just the charter hours. Okay, so now we're at 600K, right? 2 times 300, $600,000. That is your what you've brought in. That's your profit. Because what you've done is, if it's $3,000 an hour, and I can do this another way. So 3 times 3, so it's 900K. It costs them 900K to run it. You brought in 1.5 million. The difference here is 600K. Therein lies your profit for the year. Okay. The charter company charged $5,000 an hour. You flew for 300 hours. That gave you 1,500 of revenue. But you got to take away your fixed costs. You got to take away your direct operating costs, and that was roughly, we're estimating $3,000 an hour. 3,000 times 300 is 900K. These are your costs. This is a $600,000 net to you. But don't forget, you're going to want to fly your jet. So if you fly your jet, let's say 50 hours for the year.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check
So
1
that's
2.
$2K times 50. That's $100,000. So now you're only netting $500,000.
So
not bad. You can see the math can work, but we have to, and this is, it's pretty basic of how it works, but we have to wrap our mind around why it's not going to work. Okay. So a couple of reasons why this is not going to work, or a couple of things to be mindful of, I guess I should say. And this comes down to, are you going to treat this like a business, or are you treating this like a hobby? Is this a hobby that you're going to pay $3 million for a jet and it's going to offset itself, but not really? Like, that's a hobby. Or are you going to treat it like a business? And so what we want to wrap our head around is a couple of things. Number one, we only have 11 months of uptime. Okay, what that means is, don't plan on this thing flying 12 months, 365. It's not. It needs to be serviced.
Check.
It needs to be maintained.
Check.
It needs inspections. It's going to go down. You only really have maybe 11 months or so. Also, if you really want to treat it like a business, we want to keep it to roughly 20 days of flight time for yourself. if you're going to be flying more than 20 days, you're really going to start to impact the plane's availability, because what a lot of people forget when they're chartering out, there's actually like 3 phases of the flight. There's the reload. So on any given trip, you have the reload, step
does not
1.
need
So we're
that.
relocating it to the client. Okay. Step 2, you have the actual trip going from point A to point B. And then step 3, another reload, whether that's relocating it back to where it needs to be hangared or relocating it back to where they came from. And so what we really need to focus on with all 3 of these is this idea of efficiency. Don't think I spelled that for EXIRC. I don't think I spelled that right. Efficiency. So in order to make money by investing in a private jet, you need to maximize efficiency. The way that you maximize efficiency is by partnering with a charter operator that can show you how he or she has maximized the efficiency of your jet, so that when the plane is relocated from home base for a trip, the next step is to relocate it for the next trip, go to the trip, relocate it to the next trip, go on the trip, relocate it to the next trip, go on the trip, and you see that cycle. So it's constantly going, constantly making money. It's not just sitting there. The operator has to prove to you that they can make it as efficient as possible. Now, sometimes it's out of their hands. Markets are going to play a role, obviously. If there's not a demand for private charter, that's an issue. The good news is all indications are pointing towards the demand for private charter
All right, let's go on to the next one.
stabilizing in a good way. We had a high surge because of COVID, and now we're starting to see that surge is still strong. There's still a strong demand for charter. Most charter operators are turning down business right now. If they're good, if they're good operators, they're turning down business right now. That's why they're open to this idea of, hey, I'll let somebody else buy the jet and I'll give them a cut. I'll give them the lion's share of the revenue because I need more jets for my operations. So that's how that's going to work. So we went through the costs. We went through how it can generate revenue. Just talked about a couple of things that can derail this, because it looks easy and simple on paper, but there's a few things that are going to derail it. Basically, your maintenance when it's down, basically your efficiency on your trips. Again, all this stuff is on the Ultimate Jet Guide, ultimatejetguide.com/jet-invest. We'd love for you to check out the ultimatejetguide.com and schedule a call with me and talk a little bit more about your personal situation. Does it make sense for you to invest in a private jet? Let's talk about choosing a private jet. What is the best jet for you to choose? Well, here's the questions. How far are we going? How many people? And how big a cabin? And your budget. I don't always put budget on there. I don't like talking budget too much, but I know it's going to be very important. You know, it's one of those things that
All right, and we're back.
we'll be able to find
A little laggy, so
we'll be
you
able to
see my
find jets
mouth
that can
move
fill
and
the same
then
distance, take the amount of people and be the right size cabin.
delay.
And then your budget's
Good to
basically
know.
determine how new of an
Try and
aircraft
fix that.
you're going to be looking at. So basically, we're looking at 3 kinds. We're looking at light jets, we're looking at mid-sized jets, we're looking at heavy jets. Now there's categories
Put delay.
between all that: very light, mid, super mid, heavy. Basically, we're talking about light jets like your Honda jet, your Citation jet, Phenom 100s. Your mid-size is going to be like
Why don't
the
you go through
Hawker
the Phenom
800s, your Lear 60s, your Citation XLs.
You're at 3:30, guys.
XLSs,
Well, I appreciate
and
you
then we go
hanging out with me
into our heavy,
today.
like our Gulfstreams and
I'm going
our,
to go ahead
our big
and
Falcons and Challengers, things of that nature.
call.
So
Well, I'm going to make one more phone call and then we'll call it
I
a
will
day.
tell you,
Appreciate you guys hanging out today. We'll be
most
back
charter
tomorrow.
operators will
probably same
recommend
bad
a
time,
mid-sized
same bad
jet.
channel.
The reason for that is the cost, the operating cost of a mid-sized jet compared to a light jet is only slightly higher compared to what they can charge as a charter rate. So for example, if a light jet is $2,000 an hour, maybe $2,500 an hour to operate. I'm sorry, the retail rate is about $2,500 an hour. The operating costs maybe are $1,900, so you got a $600 spread there. A mid-sized jet might have an operating cost of $2,500.
My name
But you can
is
charge
Tom with
some
Jet
markets
Life
up to
Aero. I hope
$5,000.
you're doing well. I'm just
So
going
the
through the
spread is a
ultra
lot
market, and I've
bigger.
got
We're talking
uh,
thousands of
Gulf
dollars.
Romeo pulled up
of
on my
spread.
screen. I was wondering if you could help me
So
out.
even
I'm
though
not
the
sure if it
operating
makes sense to
costs
give me
are
a buzz back.
more,
But
you
I
can
work with a
charge
group that
more for
currently
a
has 6
mid-size
citations
versus
on the
a
market,
light
and
jet.
after reviewing some
Not
notes
to
and
mention the
yours,
mid-size
I just called to see
will
if you'd be
typically
opposed to
go
having a brief
almost
conversation
twice
around
as
that. Would like
far
to help you out.
and be comfortable on a
Think
mission
about making a
that's
change in the new
farther
year. So if so,
away
give me a call at
than a light jet.
941-241-2682.
Which
You can
means if
also
you're trying to
find me on
get
YouTube
to
at
300
The
hours,
Ultimate Jet
you
Guide
may have to
on
do,
YouTube.
you know,
And give me a call
300
at me. It's
1-hour trips in a light jet
941-241-2682. This is Tom.
versus
Jet Life Aero. Have a good day.
150 2-hour trips in a
All
mid-size
right.
jet.
We're going to be
So most will
calling it for
recommend
the
a
day.
mid-size.
Appreciate you guys checking
I
it
can
out.
understand why someone might want to look at a light jet because they can be a
Just
little
stop that there. Again, like I said, if you guys are appreciate the content that we're putting out there, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Again, my name is Tom with Jet Life Air, and we'll catch you later.